Let's just start by watching this medical doctor take off her mask.
Hello, I'm Dr. Claire Pochet. I'm a general pediatrician and also a senior health advisor here at the Oregon Health Authority. I'm here with Shimi Sharif, my colleague who's also a senior health advisor, and we thought we'd start by giving you a quick update on where we are as a state with COVID-19. As of today, there have been 38,160 cases of COVID-19 in Oregon, with 390 new cases being reported today. Sadly, we are also reporting 3 deaths today, bringing the statewide total for COVID-19 related deaths to 608.
The COVID-19 pandemic is reshaping how Oregonians celebrate holidays, and that includes Halloween. But it doesn't mean Halloween can't still be spooky and fun this year. Here are some low-risk Halloween activities that you can engage in with your loved ones and family. Online costume contests, watching a scary movie online, carving pumpkins with members of your household, touring neighborhood yards and home displays with household members, decorating your house, apartment, or living space with spooky lights, cotton spider webs, and other fun decorations, a Halloween scavenger hunt for candy in or around your house with members of your household, baking and decorating Halloween cookies with members of your household, hiding small pumpkins in your yard for your children to find, having a Halloween craft night with your family, sending Halloween cards, and telling spooky stories with the lights out. If you wear a costume, be sure to wear a face covering that covers your nose, mouth, and fits snugly on your cheeks. A Halloween mask won't protect you or others from spreading coronavirus. We also recommend continuing to practice the safety precautions you've been practicing all along, and these include staying at least 6 feet away from people who are not in your household, wearing a face covering, and avoiding large gatherings.
We know many of you have been wondering about trick-or-treating or trunk-or-treating and have wondered why we don't recommend it, even though it's an outdoor activity. Although outdoor activities are generally less risky than indoor activities, trick-or-treating is high risk because kids tend to get excited, which can lead to crowding people who aren't members of their household. Being in close contact with people outside of your household is one of the ways COVID-19 is spread. Halloween will likely look different this year, and we know that can be difficult, particularly for kids. First and foremost, please know that it's okay to not feel okay right now. If your kids are struggling with the changes around Halloween and you're not sure what to say, one of the best things you can do is simply listen. How are they feeling? What gets them excited about the holiday? What makes them nervous? From there, you can work together to find creative ways to address any concerns. It can also help to draw a connection between the ways COVID-19 has changed our everyday lives and how it's changing the ways we celebrate holidays.
We also want you to know that help is available if you're struggling. If you can find behavioral health resources on OHA's Safe and Strong page at safestrongoregon.org. You can also call the phone number on the Safe and Strong website. We're now ready for your questions. We want to make sure we can get to as many questions about Halloween and COVID-19, so we won't be taking questions on other topics.
Tiffany asks, every year our store sets out bowls of individually wrapped candy for our customers to help themselves around Halloween. Is this something we can still do? Well, this activity is one that could be, maybe I'd call it medium risk. You could make this a little safer by making sure that there's a container of hand sanitizer available for a guest to use both before and after taking a piece of candy. And I'd want to make sure that any bowl like that is put into a place where people are passing with at least 6 feet of space from the person before or after them and not starting to crowd around a bowl.
Anthony asks, can I just layer a face covering under my Halloween mask? And while the answer is that you certainly can, it could definitely make it harder to breathe. Costume masks generally have holes around the nose area, which makes them insufficient for COVID-19 protection. But when layered with a mask underneath, they can definitely offer protection. But it's really important to notice that if you do start to feel uncomfortable or have difficulty breathing, it's important to take off your costume mask first and then leave your regular face covering on at all times.
Abigail asks a related question. I'm curious how Halloween masks are any different in preventing the spread of COVID-19. If the goal is to stop droplets, wouldn't a plastic mask be just fine? But actually, like Dr. Sharif said, there are holes in the spaces between the face and the mask of most plastic masks and most Halloween masks. That's why a snugly fit mask that goes over the nose, or I should say a snugly fit face covering, a cloth face covering that fits snugly over the nose and then rests gently below the jawline, is better at protecting against droplets and should be used with your Halloween mask. You can certainly choose a face covering that is meant to go well with your Halloween costume, whether it's color coordinated or a fun pattern that matches. Cloth face covering is the way to go for best prevention of COVID-19.
Devin asks, how is getting handed candy while trick-or-treating different than being handed takeout at a drive-thru or a restaurant? The answer is they're not that different. But what we're worried about with trick-or-treating is not really the handing out of candy as much as the crowding around the candy, be it at a neighbor's house or else even around their garage. We really feel that it's important this Halloween season to take care of our friends and neighbors and make sure that we don't crowd around their houses or yards, and that's what makes trick-or-treating tricky.
Maybe now's the time that I could tell you about something we're doing at my household to help celebrate Halloween a little differently this year. My fellow clown that lives with me doesn't always get excited about Halloween. He didn't grow up with the holiday. But this year I brought home a skeleton. I've seen actually quite a few around this year. I wonder if there are more popping up than in years past, because they're really fun to decorate, really fun to dress up in different hats and masks, and we can change them up every single day if we want to. And I really kind of view decorating for Halloween this year as almost a public health investment to help encourage people to enjoy going out, looking at decorations around the neighborhood, staying with their own household while enjoying a little walk around the neighborhood, knowing that something like trick-or-treating would be a lot more high risk. This is at least something we can do to contribute to what the neighborhood is doing to celebrate Halloween and stay festive. I'll give you the next question, Shimi.
The next question comes from John, also on the topic of trick-or-treating. What about a social distancing candy dispenser or chute? Well, this is definitely an alternative to going up to somebody's house or their door to take candy. It can still cause the potential for crowding around the chute and also crowding around the street going up to the candy dispensers or chutes. This, again, makes it a trickier option for this Halloween season.
Liz asks, why are face shields considered safe if Halloween masks are not? And that's a really great question, and I think one that we're getting more clarification on to share with the community, that face shields, while they have their place, they're certainly very helpful at eye protection. And in the hospital setting, we recommend wearing the appropriate face covering, whether an N95 or a surgical mask, underneath a face shield for the best protection possible. Face shields can be useful when someone needs to see facial expressions, perhaps because there's a listener who is, or a person who is hearing impaired, or because there's a child who's of a developmental age that really needs to see facial expressions. We don't really recommend face shields as your go-to face covering for the whole community. It's more of an option that's better than not wearing anything, but not quite as safe or as helpful as wearing a cloth face covering that fits snugly over the nose and rests below the jaw. Good question. Thank you, Liz.
Jason asks, Wouldn't it be safe to individually wrap bags of candy for trick-or-treaters? Yes, it definitely would be safer to wrap candy for trick-or-treaters to pick up. But again, there's a potential for crowds when people come by to pick up the bags of candy. So this is again why we haven't formally advised this as an option.
Ismail asks, why wouldn't a Halloween mask protect us if it's made of the same fabric as a face covering? That's a good question, Ismail, and I think there are some ways where you could use a face covering, what meets our criteria of fitting snugly over the nose and resting under the chin or under the jawline. It could be part of your costume. That's a very good point.
Esther asks, can we make trunk or treat safe in some way? Trunk or treating is basically trick or treating, but out of people's trunks of their cars. So there's certainly a place for trunk or treating because it is outdoors, but again, it is hard to really determine how many people will crowd around your vehicle and also, potentially crowd around it without actually having a system in place to do that. That again is why we think of trunk or treating just as risky as trick or treating during this particular holiday season. That's a good question.
Thanks for that, Shimmy. I wonder if you could tell us about your costume.
So my costume, I'm Totoro from My Neighbor Totoro, which is a Studio Ghibli film by Hayao Miyazaki. So it's a well-known Japanese cartoon from like the late 80s. So this is a Totoro onesie that I'm wearing. And as you can see, I'm still wearing a regular cloth face covering, but I've coordinated it to match my Halloween costume. So this is an option for people out there too.
And we were joking about how you can also probably create a Halloween costume that's appropriate for the weather, because she's got a hood for warmth, but maybe could also have a hood on a rain gear as well. As for me, we clowns kind of took a back seat from Halloween for a while. We were kind of relegated to birthday parties for several years. There were some bad actors who dressed up as clowns back in Halloween. I don't know, maybe it was 2015. But I'm hoping to bring us back as the fun-loving and happy clowns that we have always been. We'd love to get more questions from you. I think Lisa had a really great one for us. We really appreciate that. And maybe we can think of other questions that people have been asking us lately. Anything that first comes to your mind, Dr. Sharif?
Most of our questions have centered around trick-or-treating, but keep in mind there are other alternatives to trick-or-treating this year that we just never really had the option to before, and that's to host a online movie party. I don't think any of us have done sort of movie parties in groups with people that we don't live close to ever before, and it's just getting easier and easier to do those things.
That would be fun. Lisa asks, what is safe for trunk-or-treat events? Is trunk-or-treat just as risky as trick-or-treating? That is maybe Lisa, I think Lisa might have asked the last question too. So, and Esther asks a very similar question. Can we make trunk or treat safe in some way? Well, there are certainly things that I know we're all thinking about as creative and innovative Oregonians, ways that we could sort of keep alive some of the traditions that we have done in the past. We know that 6 feet of space is important. We know that wearing our face coverings is important. And we know that staying with members of our own household is important and avoiding any prolonged interaction with people from other households. We still, from the Oregon Health Authority and from the governor's office, are recommending against doing trunk or treat and trick or treat events just because of the high risk of people crowding and people congregating in areas close together. Remember that each of the holidays that we have experienced so far during our pandemic here in Oregon, we have seen a spike in cases about 2 weeks after those holidays. So we're really hoping that this Halloween, as we get ready for a pretty dense season of lots of holidays from lots of different backgrounds, We really would like to set a precedent and see if we can't make Halloween the safest of the holidays so far and prevent a big spike in cases, especially as we're still experiencing our most recent spike. We have yet to level off. I'll give the next question to you, Shimi.
This question comes from Kat. It's another question about trick-or-treating, and the question is, so is trick-or-treating not happening due to safety? We would like to recommend, yes, it would be best to avoid trick-or-treating this Halloween season and look forward to trick-or-treating hopefully in the future. In the meantime, it would be really much safer to engage in all the other activities that we provided as alternatives this season.
So Shimi mentioned doing movie watch parties with people who are not in your household, doing that, either online or even just plenty of people. I think there's a term for this that I don't know the term, but plenty of people on social media will watch a TV show at the same time and they're all tuned in together, right? It's one way of feeling connected. Another way would be a costume contest online. You can do a virtual costume contest with your friends and family and with your children's friends and family on Zoom. Just set a time together in advance. Do all the fun work of getting dressed up. Have your online event together, and then maybe go take a walk together with the family to see the decorations in the neighborhood afterward. Next question to you, Shimi.
Julianne just asked a really great question of us. Have you considered creating a low to high risk Halloween document for families to follow? Well, in fact, we at the Oregon Health Authority have exactly such a document, and it's available on our Twitter page, on social media, and we'd be glad to post it down below after this chat.
Thanks for that, Julianne. That's a really helpful question. We really appreciate that you're looking out for the work we've been doing. Carrie asks, can we do an outdoor costume parade? So this has been a very fun question, fun idea. I think the question and the challenge is, one, could you space people 6 feet apart while walking? Absolutely, you could. The biggest challenge is in spectators. And so that's the same as, we see in sporting events. There's a real risk of spreading COVID among spectators. It would be the same risk with the parade, unfortunately. Could there be a way to do that in a virtual parade? Absolutely. I know Oregonians tend to be innovative and creative, and I'm really excited to see what people come up with in ways to do this in a socially distant and safe way. Using your technology would be a safer way to do a parade like that than an in-person parade where people would be congregating to watch. Thanks for that question, Carrie.
Just to demo what an online costume contest would look like, as you can see, Dr. Poche and I are both in costumes. Please send us your comments below. We'd really appreciate the feedback.
We invited them. So Julianne asks, we are hearing that some of the alternative events folks are planning could actually be less safe than trick-or-treating. I appreciate that thought, Julianne. I hesitate to ask what those events would be because I don't really want to encourage them. So your question is, can we tell folks how to safely trick-or-treat outdoors? We really cannot. I really am sorry to say that there is just not a safe recommendation either from the CDC, from the state of Oregon, from the Oregon Health Authority, or from myself, even as I'm sitting here trying to be creative and thoughtful about your concern. The truly safest thing is to sit this one out, hold off on trick-or-treating this year, look forward to doing it in future years, and this year, let's come up with really creative ways to celebrate.
Yeah, people can play football. They can line up across the line from each other, yelling out signals, gang tackling each other, spitting, whatever, but your kids can't trick-or-treat. They're wearing a mask. Just anything over your face, we're told when we go into a store. Anything over your face, you piece of crap.
You can celebrate outdoors, but please celebrate with the members of your own household and not congregating with members of other households. Thank you for your question. So not everybody in Oregon celebrates Halloween, and not everybody that I know grew up celebrating Halloween. Still, I might ask some questions around. If do you have any fun Halloween memories, or do you, even if it's not about Halloween, last year, do you remember this time of year what was going on?
I think it was in San Francisco this time last year, but I can say safely that my most memorable Halloween costume is when I went as Bob Ross in medical school. I think I passed for a man just for a brief second, but I don't have any pictures to share today.
I wish I could see that. I wish I could see the artwork that Dr. Sharif would have made when she was dressed up as Bob Ross. I think that would be pretty fun.
It was definitely a very productive artistic time in my life.
Well, I don't remember the name of the person who was asking us about the low, medium, and high risk infographic, but I'm really excited to have that posted on the Facebook page. I wish I had it in front of me so I could just read off some of the tips from it. Other things that I think we could think about: who loves to bake or cook? We could make Halloween shapes. You know, there's plenty of different, not just things you can do with a can of pumpkin, but different ways to, you know, whether you're making cookies or you're making candies or even healthy snacks with vegetables and fruits cut up into fun shapes to look like jack-o'-lanterns or ghosts. Certainly nobody has canceled carving a pumpkin. That's a fun, creative activity that continues this year. I always have a challenge if I'm going to carve a pumpkin, figuring out exactly what's the best timing to, and what ends up happening, as maybe some of you have experienced, is I leave a pumpkin out on the front porch for 2 or 3 months untouched. What other ideas, Shimmy, do you think you might come up with? It would be
For Halloween this year?
Yeah.
I think going to, you know, like checking out yard displays of pumpkins is a great idea. You know, even if you're tired of looking at your own carved pumpkin, bear in mind other people have their own carved pumpkins. An example is this bedazzled sparkly pumpkin that we have here today. It hasn't been carved by anybody, but it's still our commemorative pumpkin. One thing that I do remember that we've been getting questions about, Dr. Poche, is that, you know, how do you talk to your kids about Halloween?
Yeah, this is a good question. So I think one of the things we mentioned is always just meeting your kids where they are, right? Follow their lead. And certainly different families celebrate differently, and different kids are going to be excited about different parts of Halloween. Sometimes we kind of jump to assumptions about, you know, what somebody's going to be so bummed about or so disappointed in, and we forget about all the other things to get excited about. And frankly, this year...
You mean by being told by their pediatrician that they have to hide at home and not be around other people? Being bummed about somebody lying to them, somebody that they trust to give them viable facts and information, and they dress up like a fuckhead? You jumbled piece of crap.
For a kid to understand, a kid is already understanding what's an air hug, what's, you know, why am I not running up and grabbing onto grandma when I see her, or...
Wait, say that a kid is understanding an air hug or wondering why they can't run up to grandma? No, they don't. At all. They understand that -8%. They don't understand it because it's not an understandable thing, because they're not seeing anybody that knows anybody that has been negatively affected by this, because it's so statistically anomalous.
Life has changed for kids this year, and they have noticed, and they've also...
Administrators and authority have forced life to change for kids this year. It didn't change because it needed to change. It changed because there's a formidable opponent, not a virus. Well, the virus that I'm listening to, the virus of deception. But that's the formidable opponent. It's what you are saying. You are in a position of medical power and authority, and you are spewing absolute garbage and lies.
Been incredibly resilient and incredibly strong and thoughtful. And I think that when you talk to them about what the risks are related to crowding together, related to this virus that we've all been working so hard together to prevent from spreading, I hope that some of the tools that we've mentioned, some of the different ways of celebrating that we've discussed, I hope that these might be helpful in your own conversations with kids. And remember, if they are disappointed, if they are sad, that's not abnormal. The same as we tell you it's okay to not be okay, we tell our kids it's okay to be disappointed, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to express that. Let's give those kids some art supplies and help them with, using their words and congratulate them on expressing their disappointment in healthy ways. And then let's take a walk and go look at some Halloween decorations, or let's make some Halloween decorations.
But obviously with 6 feet of separation in between each other, and absolutely do not engage or interact with any neighbors or friends. Just take a socially distanced walk in fear and trepidation of human contact.
Decorations. I hope that some of these have been helpful for you, and we really hope that you, our fellow Oregonians, have a happy and healthy and safe Halloween this year.
Put your mask on. Put your mask on. Put your mask on. Put your mask on. Damn it.